All right, cool. So I just want to spend a little bit of time, not a ton of time. I wanted most of our time to just be spent doing community stuff. But I got two questions for you that I just kind of want you to answer at random. What's driving you to want to go to Denver?
Is that my dog? Mm-hmm. Where is it? It's okay. It's in the garage. Did you send it?
No, the back door's open. Oh. They're fine.
Okay. There's nothing in there they can eat, is there?
Oh, yeah.
Is it okay if they eat it?
It just won't sell at the garage sale.
Do you close the garage?
No, it's fine. So what's driving you to go to Denver?
Probably a car.
Thank you, Jameson.
Just like little shoes or something, they might shoot.
Jesus.
Good, the spiritual answer. Good. we got that one out of the way. We're good.
I like that there's a huge percentage of the population that doesn't know who Jesus is, or at least has been unchurched, so it can make a difference.
Daddy.
That's true. Daddy will be taking him.
Yep.
Not
Not on this one.
I don't want so. I don't want some peace. I don't want so. I don't want so.
You're on video right now, son.
No. I don't want
Go to mom. It's okay.
Mama.
Yeah.
I don't want so.
Knowing that I'm going to be able to trust in God with something bigger than myself, more than the small stuff that I've always, trusted God with.
How many of you would say that this would be the greatest leap of faith you've taken?
Okay.
Still on video.
Wyatt, if you want to watch the show, you got to come to mommy.
I would say I grew up in Seattle and seeing what how the Lord transformed that city just through one church and the church's people. Seeing Him doing a move in Denver, it's going to be really cool to be part of something that God's doing like He did in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? I know.
I think, and it's been coming up in more ways than just this, adventure. I mean, I think that, I think life is boring without adventure and taking risks, and so that's a huge thing, yeah.
Nice.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, our first steps into, coffee shops or restaurants or wherever we work, that's going to be the first steps towards drastically changing people's eternity. The first conversation we have, we might look back 5 years from now and say, dude, the first time I walked in there, I didn't know anybody. And your life went from, not knowing the Lord to being changed for eternity and you changing other lives. I think that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
I think there are a lot of things that God wants us to fix that are really hard to learn when it comes to this. So I'm excited about getting out of my comfort zone, just learning more of who He is and who He's made me to be.
Yeah, that one's hard because it hurts a lot of times.
People ask me if I'm excited to move to Denver, and I'm like, yeah, but how excited can you really be when you know it's going to really be hard and painful? You know what I mean? And it is. I'm very excited, but at the same time, I know it's going to be the hardest thing we've ever done.
It's good.
Being a part of seeing the community go from the ground up and start seeing lives change like this, that's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be hard at points, but and just once we start seeing people come to Christ, just that reward is going to be so amazing.
I can't wait to see just what God does with each of us, and like how our step of faith is going to help radically transform not just our lives, and not just the lives of people in Denver, but generations to come after us, of our own family. You know, being able to say, wow, man, my parents were able to do this, you know, and not just that, I mean, transforming our parents' lives by seeing it, and transforming siblings or whoever, because most people don't ever do anything like this. So it's going to be cool to see that. Last week I read, if you don't if you have a smartphone, and I would really encourage you to download the app Denver Post. It's their newspaper, and it's very solid, very good stuff. Just helps you get into the culture very, very quickly. There's some really crazy articles in there about just, I mean, it's just a normal newspaper, but I don't know, it's just interesting when you're, like, I guess for me, I read stuff in Charleston, I'm like, whatever, you know, and then I like read stuff out in Denver, and like, I don't know, I just see things from a different light at this point. And I was reading an article about this guy named Evan, and Evan is the guy, I don't know if you saw it, but about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, he got out of jail like in January or February, somewhere in that time frame, and then he killed a pizza delivery guy, and then went and killed the prison chief, went and killed him at his house. Then he drove down to Texas and got in a shootout with cops, and then got killed. And they're not sure like why he ended up killing the chief of prisons or whatever this guy was. So they're trying to look into it, but they just did an article on his history, on just his background. And he had, you know, kind of just a really messed up background, family history. His parents got divorced, and mom couldn't really figure out how to handle him, so gave him over to dad. Dad couldn't really figure out how to handle him, so sent him off to like different places, and those different places would abuse him and different things like that. So the people that were like supposed to keep him safe were the ones that were causing a lot of damage in his life. And at the age of 16, he ran away, got in some more trouble, got arrested, and when he got in prison, he tattooed the word hopeless on his stomach. And when I read that, like, my heart just broke, and I just felt like the Lord impressed on my heart that what he did to himself is the way most of the people feel. And most won't vocalize that. Almost no one will tattoo that on themselves. But that's the reality without Christ, is that we're hopeless. And I just thought, man, if that guy would have had someone that poured into his life, if he would have had a church that he could have called home, things would be drastically different. We would have, you know, the pizza guy would still be alive, this other guy would still be alive, he would still be alive, and generations would have been changed in his family for the better. And now generations will be changed for the worse. And man, I just thought, wow, that's a reason to go. Just that story alone. All right, second question. This is the last one. Temptations or obstacles. Last time we talked, we chatted about how I told you how anytime you're facing a big decision, you're going to have temptations come up, and you're going to have obstacles come up. So there's going to be things that will draw you to keep you here, to keep you in that comfortable state. And there'll be things that come against you, some obstacles that come against you to try to make you retreat and stay in that comfortable state. So if you guys, in the last couple of weeks, as you've thought about Denver and processed that, have you experienced any temptations or obstacles?
Family.
Which way?
I mean,
Obstacle?
Yeah, obstacle, because my family lives in Charlotte. I've lived in Charlotte my whole life. And then coming down here, I mean, it's changed a bunch. And then my parents actually just got separated about 2 or 3 months ago. So they're my mom doesn't want me to go because I'm half, I only got me and my sister. So it's like half the family already went away because they separated. And then if I go, all that's left is my sister, so it's rough on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big obstacle.
I've been trying to get a job at this Water Missions International. I've been trying to get a job with them for the last 4 years, and I decided to go. And just 2 days ago, I got an email from them that they've got a lot of job openings that I now qualify for.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
A similar story to go along with that. After the last time we were here, the day after, I got a call from California to a job that I applied for like 6 months ago, and they wanted me to come work in California, literally the day after this. And my personality is the type that I need to know what I'm doing at all times. Like, and so that was a huge temptation. And then my grandmother, who practically raised me, has lung cancer. And so I know when I say goodbye to her to go to Colorado, it's the last time that I'll probably say goodbye to her.
We'll pray for her that won't be the case. Any others? Temptations or obstacles?
Being an intern at the church, obviously a lot of us are going, so there's some positions that are opening up, and hearing people talk about that, at times it's like, man, I could just totally apply for a job here and be cool with that. So that's been kind of challenging over the last couple of weeks, hearing people talk about that kind of thing. So.
I think it's been I don't know, an obstacle or a temptation, but I think when we first announced to the church that we were doing this, it was like people were really excited about it. It was kind of like this positive energy about Denver, and now that it's kind of settled out, I think it's hard sometimes to be like, we're still going, even though there's not that same energy that there was initially, and kind of the reality sets in of like, this isn't just like a fun adventure. This is like real life. We're doing this. Like in 6 weeks we're leaving.
I know. Crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
So.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've been recognizing as well. It's like, instead of people being excited, they're like, we've had so many people come up to us and like, hey, what are you doing with your golf cart? I'm gonna miss you too. It's weird. It is a sweet golf cart. It's going with us. Read my blog. I'm gonna do a whole post on my golf cart. Any others?
Relationships in general.
Mm-hmm.
To rely on what God will have, because I don't like people. I don't trust people, so this is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one I know besides Neil and Johnny are going, so that's getting very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that honesty.
For me and Johnny, it's just been like practical stuff, kind of like what Emily was saying, like, okay, like we really have to like figure out and just temptation with like the reality of leaving our families, and like my dad's gonna be gone all summer, and like he gets back 2 days before we're planning on moving, and just like little stuff like that was kind of like, oh man. But yeah, so most of it's family stuff and figuring it all out.
I'd say both. Obstacles and temptations. Just like at work, I've gotten a raise and a promotion in the last month. And then I got asked to be on this like internal progression program to take a position up later on in Blackball. So it's just like, this is all within like a week. It's like, boom. And then obstacles been just, my sister, she was up in New York and been praying for her for a while. And she's not a Christian at all. I'm going up to see her on Thursday, and we've had a conversation last couple weeks, and all good. And she asked me, you're coming up, you want to go to church? Her and church never came in the same sentence in the last 10 years. So it's just like, small breakthroughs are happening. She's like, I just want to be closer to this. Like, it's your sister, you want to see change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough.
But also, like, a piece of encouragement with that is that if, not trying to convince you to go, I don't know where you're standing, but if you move, that is going to be a huge topic of conversation. And so that right there, it's like you get to talk about what you're doing and what and why. I think if someone that doesn't know God sees someone make that move, it's clearly for something they believe in and that they believe can happen and will work. And I mean, that's the definition of faith outside of the Christian perspective even, is like, acting without knowing. And so that right there could be an even bigger move.
That's a good point. I've had more spiritual conversations with my neighbors in the last 3-4 months than we've had the whole time we've lived here. And it's just like, it just automatically opens, more depth, more opportunity for depth. That's good. Yeah, I mean, the reality is we have an enemy, and the enemy doesn't want us to go. And so we're going to be faced with both. He's going to try temptation, and if that doesn't work, he's going to try obstacles. Or he's going to try obstacles first to try to get you to be deflated, and then if that doesn't work, then he'll try temptation. That's just the reality. That's how he rolls. And we've had people, that have at some point said that we've had multiple people say that they're in at some point, and because of either obstacles or temptations, or maybe just not hearing clearly from the Lord the first time, have said no. And I know some. I mean, one person told me that they just they were they just didn't want to make that move. They were just kind of tired of it, just tired of not wanting to search for a job and not wanting to do all these different things. I thought, oh my gosh, like if that's not an obstacle from Satan, I don't know what is. If it's the Lord saying something, then that's great. But if it's just it seems like obstacles, then Satan's going to do that. He's going to throw out obstacles and temptations. So just stay strong. I just want to go through a few things with you, and then might have time for one more thing with Emily. Do you have the acclimation stuff? We're going to give you just a document that Neil created to help for anybody that is definite in going. Just an acclimation plan with Denver being a mile high. Everything is different. Walking up a flight of steps is different. What?
Not until you get to the 13th.
Not until you get to the 13th. That's right. So this will just let me steal one from you. Actually, 3. You need one.
Yeah, this is nice paper. Very nice PowerPoint slide. Is this pen?
So on the far right, Neil just put kind of some fun facts. Some of the things that.
I love your fun, Neil.
Can I get one more? Can you pass one more back? Some of the stuff that Emily actually just did that fact or crap game with us over there on the right-hand side. And you can just kind of read some of the different things that Neil put in here. But at the very bottom, for your cardiorespiratory fitness, you want to just read through that because you really do want to be prepared. I remember going out in Colorado Springs, when I was 19, I think, and we went and played a game of ultimate frisbee, and after running one time down the field, I thought I was going to die. I mean, it was just like, holy crack, what is this? So it really is a big difference. So this will actually help you prepare. I don't remember if you have this in here or not, Neil, but you need to drink tons of water, a ton of water. Your lips will get chapped very quickly. Your throat will dry out. You'll become dizzy, all that stuff if you don't have enough water intake. So make sure you do that. So you guys can kind of read through this. Neil gives you kind of an idea of what you want to look out for as far as intensity, duration, and frequency as far as working out. This is no joke. Like, my tendency and stuff like this normally is just to like throw it aside and be like, whatever, I'll deal with it when I get out there. But when we went and visited in December, I remember walking up the steps to Jeff and Sherry's house, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I was totally out of breath. It was a little bit better when I went back in February just because I knew a little bit of what to expect and prepared myself a little bit better. But it was still tough. So just wanted to give you guys that so you can try to prepare yourself as much as possible. Do you have your deal? And then Wes made up this kind of a community plan. We made up a community plan. So this is the main thing that I kind of want to talk through with you guys. A lot of people that are saying, hey, we're thinking about going, but what would I be doing? What would be my role and stuff like that. And here's the thing about roles. Within a church and whatnot, you can't worry about roles at this point, okay? Because we don't know what God is going to create the church to look like and what the priorities are going to be. There's some churches, like there's a church I know up in New York that they care very little about their children's ministry, just because they serve almost all young adults, and so they don't have a ton of kids at this point. So they didn't really focus on that. But our church may. Our church may have a heavy, I'm going to assume based on where we're going, we're going to have a heavy emphasis on that. So just don't worry about roles at this point. The goal of us going out there is to build community and help that community really impact the lives of the people in the community. Does that make sense? So our goal, the whole role that we have in going out there is to build community with one another and build community with the people that are around us. So this just gives you an idea of what that can look like. First question up at the top is, what did community look like when the church began? Acts chapter 2, if you've never read that chapter, I would really encourage you to read it and get that thing nailed down in your heart and your mind, because that's really the picture of what the church should look like. Toward the end of that chapter, from verse 42 to verse 47, it gives us a picture of what the early church, what the very first church had. But Acts chapter 2 really discusses what the early church looks like, and that could go as far as doing like house churches, or it could just say, here's the principles we want to have in our church, because that's what the principles show. The first is fellowship. And you can read Acts chapter 2. It talks about devoting themselves to the fellowship, breaking of the bread, which is communion, and eating together. And they had all things in common, which meant they just shared things. Teaching. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. They had the power of God. They saw many miracles and things happening. Number 4, worship and prayer. It says they were attending the temple together and they were praising God together. And then outreach. The last verse says that they had favor with all the people, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. That's what we ultimately want. We want God to add to the number day by day those who are accepting Christ, those whose lives are radically changing. So how do we create community? This is what we're going to do. This is kind of the focus of what we want as people move out there. We want to create 2 different things. One are community groups. You can read that there. Community groups are organized geographically, and the purpose is to build community amongst us and the people that God draws into our lives. Ideally, each community group would meet on a regular basis for meals, worship, recreational activity, and whatever else the community likes to do. These groups are designed to build community with each other and to have a place where others, churched and unchurched alike, will feel welcome to be a part. This should give you plenty of opportunities to share your faith. So basically what we're wanting, let's say this was the group that's coming, and there's a few that couldn't be here tonight because either they live out of state or they're out of town right now. But let's say we have 25 people go, 25 adults. Ideally, what we'd like to do is go, okay, these 4 or 5 people, you guys are going to, y'all have chosen to live in this area. We're not going to force anybody to live anywhere, but we're saying, okay, you guys kind of like each other. Y'all live in this general area, whether it's this apartment complex or these 2 or 3 apartment complexes, which are right together, or you live in this neighborhood, or you live in this whatever. We're trying to put people geographically where it seems to make sense. So that we can have the greatest influence possible. And then the goal would be to build community as that little group. So let's say the 4 of y'all moved into an apartment complex. Sorry, Johnny, you're in another one. The 4 of y'all move into an apartment complex. You can be added into it. Good luck. You move into an the same apartment complex or ones that are right beside each other. So you're building community with each other. You're having dinners together. You're playing cards together. You're going out and playing whatever sport or watching sports or whatever, watching movies, different things like that. And then as you're building relationships at the coffee houses and at wherever you're working and the different places you're going, you're inviting people over. So hey, yo, we got dinner tonight. You guys want to come over? And it's just this open environment for people to join. And so that's your community group, and your focus is the people in those apartment complexes. And then the people you're interacting with at Starbucks or Chipotle or wherever. I had to throw that in for you. So the community group is really geographically based, not that you can't associate with anybody else, but that the goal is, hey, let's focus on this area. If we're living in this area, then let's make sure that we're ministering to this area. And I think a lot of times a lot of believers get that wrong. They live in an area and then they go over here and they focus over here for some reason. Like, hey, we live here, but let's go focus on just the poor, or let's go focus on just whatever. And if God's placed you in a spot, then you want to build community in that spot. So that's what a community group is. So each week you're doing your own thing. Whatever the community likes to do. You could be meeting together 18 times a week. You can meet together once a week, whatever that community wants. I think my feeling is that once we get out there, we'll be meeting each other a good bit at the beginning, And then as we build more and more relationships and stuff like that, then it might, instead of 3 or 4 times a week, it might turn into 1 time a week or something like that. Just because you're developing other relationships and you feel a little bit more comfortable hanging out with somebody that didn't come from Charleston with you. And if at any point you have questions, just stop me. Okay? So, yes.
And you may have just touched on this, but when we first start going out there, because we're all going out there at different times, so would we meet community groups, like with people going out in July, would they meet together and then slowly break off into your own community? Okay.
Yeah. And then as a big group, we'll be meeting together as well.
Yeah.
I haven't determined if we're going to do that starting off every other week or go ahead and start off doing it every week. And eventually, probably by January, we definitely will be every week, but probably sooner than that, we'll be meeting every week as a large group as well. So not just as a community group. So the community groups will just be more relationship building, eating dinners, those type of things. And then as a larger group, we'll be meeting together for, whatever the Lord has. So worship and whatever else. So. And then spiritual, and so the first 3 weeks of the month, as you can see here, you can do whatever you want to build a community. Then the 4th week of the month, we want to have a massive party, a massive celebration where everybody, all the community groups come together and everybody just has a big party. We feel like that'll be really easy to invite people to. If we're having a big cookout, if we're whatever we're doing, it's really easy to invite people to that, no matter who they are, no matter what they believe. It just makes it easy for us. And then the second is the spiritual discovery groups. I'm really pumped about that. It says spiritual discovery groups are groups designed to provide an inviting atmosphere for any skeptic, atheist, agnostic, unchurched, de-churched, hurt by church, or anyone else interested in learning more about God. Since Denver is an intellectual town, these groups could be highly beneficial. These will be a type of next step for those who have joined our community groups. Each group will meet 1 time per week, and every discussion will be led by myself, but the group will be cared for by the community group in that area. That way, as the community group grows with new people, when those new people are interested in having a spiritual discovery group, then we will start one. So basically, here's how that works. So as the community grows, so as you guys have invested in your apartment complex and that community has grown or whatever, and now you have 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever people who are unchurched, not sure about this whole God thing, but they're cool hanging out with you guys. As they're beginning to ask questions, you guys pose this idea of a spiritual discovery group. And if they say, yeah, we're down for joining it, it's an 11-week deal. The first week, we get together and we just hang out. And then from there, we ask them that first week the top 10 questions that they have about faith. And we pull out, as we listen to all the different people's questions, we pull out those top 10. And then that's what I use to then teach the next 10 weeks on. The reason why I'll lead those is because, say we have your group, your community group in one area, and your community group in one area, and your community group in one area, and then if you start spiritual discovery groups around the same time, it's easy for me to take that same lesson. The 10 questions that people have about God are pretty much always the same. You can bet that about 8 of them are going to be the exact same, and then you just kind of, 1 or 2 are going to be different with each group. So then it's easy for me. I've already prepared one. I can teach the others as well. So it doesn't, and also what it does is it allows those unchurched people to kind of get to know me as well. It gives me opportunity to hang out with them. You've already been having that with your community group, and they probably don't know me at all except maybe at these big parties. So it allows them to see, okay, who's this pastor? What is this thing called church and all of that? And they get to have a relationship there that maybe they trust, maybe they don't. So the goal would be the community group so that people build relationships, because that's why we're there ultimately. And that's what Jesus uses to change lives. And then from those community groups, we move into spiritual discovery groups as people want that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just one thing just to say, I've only been in Denver one time, but one thing that I really noticed in some of the people that I interacted with is that people are going to be very interested, whether or not they feel like they're interested in a relationship with God, they're going to be very interested in this. Like, when we were in the mall walking around, I had this conversation with 2 people, and it matched everything that Pastor Jeff was saying about Denver. Like, people are interested in this. It is a very intellectual city. They want to know about this stuff. So they might be a 0 on wanting to have a relationship with God, but they would love to come to something like this. Like, these are going to be, I think, easier to get people to than we think they are, and they're going to be hugely beneficial and life-changing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, if you guys haven't downloaded the Meetup app, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to download that. It's called Meet, like MEET, up. And it is like, I mean, I don't know, it's going to be one of the most useful tools we will have. And literally all we have to do is put one of these spiritual discovery groups on that, and we will have random people show up. So this will not be hard to create or to sustain.
Is it possible to send the community groups out what you're going to be teaching on about spiritual discovery, and maybe like some scriptures to read up on, or some other theological information?
Yeah, you guys will already know, you guys will be a part of that group, the spiritual discovery group anyways. The key will be you guys, nobody really running the conversation, but allowing and we may have to even get to a point where it's all going to be based on how people feel comfortable. But if they go, yo, I don't really want other Christians in this group, then, I mean, I know a lot of guys who do these type groups, and they literally will have one other Christian in the group with them, and that's it. But we will inform the community group what we're teaching on, the scriptures and all that stuff. So then if you want to have that conversation over dinner or whatever, you can have that at that point. And I think that's ideal.
Just saying, because I assume people would come back to the community groups and want to talk about it.
Hopefully, unless I really screw it up. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they will. And I mean, it's going to give you guys the perfect opportunity to really share your faith. Like, I think one of the scariest things for Christians is this word evangelism, and it's like, people are like, oh crap, we got to go out to Denver and like share our faith. That's scary. That's really scary for a lot of people. And I would say for the majority of us in here, that's scary. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's going to be a couple things with that. One, we're gonna train everybody how to share our faith. Like, and it's really not that difficult, and it's really not that scary once you learn the non-denominational way of doing it. There's a lot of denominations that teach these specific ways, and we'll teach things that hopefully will be more applicable. And then the spiritual discovery groups will be super easy for conversations, super easy. So, all right, and then the fourth week, we're inviting all of them to the big party. So we know that not everybody in those spiritual discovery groups will be in a community group, because we'll be advertising it throughout the town and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll have random people show up. So we want to invite everybody to the big party that all the community groups are a part of. Does that make sense? So it's just one big community. We're all just having fun. We're all just celebrating together and stuff like that. And it's not weird. I'm not going to like give a teaching. We're not going to break out a guitar and sing Kumbaya or anything like that. It's like, yo, let's play kickball. It's like that. I mean, it's just, let's have fun and help people see, a different side of things. There's, from what I've told and just a little bit of research, or a lot of research that I've done about the spiritual climate in Denver, they don't have a negative mentality toward church. They have no mentality toward church. There's like no preconceived notions. So they're not like, ooh, we want to see if these Christians are real. Like, what? I don't even know, what are you? Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, so that's nice, because I think in the South a lot of times, and especially at places up north that are like anti-Christianity, people are just looking for you to see whether or not you're like real, you're legit, and that type of thing. And out there, I think they're just looking for relationships. So if you have a relationship and then you could tell them about some dude who changed your life, they're open to it. So I think it's going to be really simple, or it's more simple than what we may think. So how do we build our different groups? On the second page, believe it or not, you are the best way for our church to reach the city of Denver with the gospel. It's not Sunday morning services, it's not big events, it's you. They say 95% of people who come to church came because of a personal invitation. Not because of some card they got in the mail, not because of some banner that's flying in the sky, but because somebody invited them. So you are definitely the most important thing for this church. If God is calling you out to Denver, He's calling you to create new relationships, share your faith, and lead new believers in their relationship with Jesus. We'll be taking time in community groups to learn more about this and walk alongside you as this can be intimidating. But we also want to set a few goals for all of us to aspire to. So here are a few goals that we'll ask everybody once we get out there to really aspire to. And again, it'll take time, but these are goals for us. Invite 2 new people to community group each week. Again, these are the groups you're like having dinner, or you're playing kickball, or you're going to a movie. So it's like, yo, hey, we're going to see a movie tonight. You want to go? It's not like exactly. This isn't you're coming over to my house to talk about the Bible, which can be very intimidating. It's like, yo, dude, you want to go see Star Trek with us? Like it's not Star Trek. It's not that hard. Sorry, John. Johnny, let's go. It's really not. I mean, 2 people a week is not difficult at all. It's just building relationships with the baristas that you meet and the different people you're interacting with. And then 2, identify 5 people who don't know Jesus and pray for them daily. So we'll keep each other accountable with that within our community groups. We'll say, hey, you're praying for your 5 people. Because we want to make sure that prayer is the focal point of what we do, because it's only God who changes lives, so we need to be praying for them. 3rd, share your faith with 5 people each month. It's intimidating for most. We'll help you with this. Again, it's not, you have to lead people through the 18 verses in Scripture to help them say a prayer. But we do want to share our faith, and we'll talk about how we do that. It's not really that intimidating. And then last, become regulars at places within our community. The more familiar people become with you, the easier it is to build relationships with them. Go to the same coffee shop when you get a coffee. Eat out at the same 4 or 5 places when you eat out. Go for walks or runs on the same paths. That's like a no-brainer. I mean, it's just go to the same places. Don't mix it up a whole lot. Once you find the places you like, then keep going to them. And then you'll start building relationships with people that God will put into your life. My goal this week, I go to Charleston Bagel pretty much every day. And my goal this week is I've been building a relationship with this old dude in there who loves Boston. I love Boston. So we literally talk about the Red Sox every time I go in there because he's in there every time. So my goal this week is to sit down with him. And I'm going to invite myself to his table because we've talked enough. I feel like I can do that now. I'm just going to sit down and just ask him a few questions. And we'll see what happens. But I literally have been building a relationship with him just by asking him about the Red Sox for like 3 months now. And I feel like now is an okay time to be able to, if I don't do it now, I won't probably do it because I'm leaving soon. So that's kind of what you do, just go to the same places. Where should you live? This is just some ideas to think about. And our encouragement to you for community groups is to talk with different people in here. If you're like, hey, I don't really know anybody in here, so hook me up, then let us know that, and we'll hook you up with a few. If you're a guy, we'll hook up with a few guys that are going to be living in this area. If you're a girl, same thing. If you're a married couple, figure it out. And then here are the different places to choose from. Castle Rock almost definitely is going to be the place that we plant. I mean, that's like where we're thinking right now. God can change anything, and we've received a lot of wisdom to wait till we get out there to decide where it's going to be. But there's a lot of churches that want to plant in Castle Rock. They want to do something in Castle Rock, which if there are a lot of churches in Denver that want to do something in Castle Rock, it tells you there's something unique about Castle Rock. There's churches right now that have literally one church that has $100,000 is just waiting to give it to a church planter that goes to Castle Rock. And that's a church in Denver. So it's like literally there's like churches waiting for people to go there, which it's in one of the fastest growing communities in the Denver area. So it's probably going to be the place. Castle Pines is just north of that. Parker is like northeast of Castle Rock, and then Centennial is straight north. The city of Denver, downtown Denver, is like 27 miles, something like that, from Castle Rock. And that's straight north. So all of these are in between downtown Denver and Castle Rock, just so you know. If you want to live downtown Denver, that's fine. A, you're going to pay a whole lot of money. And B, you're going to be a lot further from the church. So I just would encourage you not to. Your cheapest bet is to be in Castle Rock, just because you're further from the city. And if any of you have lived in a big city or near a big city, you know the closer you get to downtown, way more expensive, like way, way more expensive. So, but it's totally up to you. Centennial is an awesome spot, really cool area. Parker is a cool spot. That's where Sarah and I will be living for the first few months, just to get our gauge on things. And then Castle Pines is a pretty rich area from what I'm told. And the Castle Rock is probably the cheapest of the 4. And that's probably where we're going to be. And lastly, what can you do to learn the culture? That's weird. Even though Denver is in our country, it's a very different culture than here in Charleston. There are plenty of things we can do to learn the culture. Here are a few suggestions. These are great suggestions that Wes came up with. Download the Meetup app and attend at least one event per month. I think Sunday night, I get an email that says, hey, here are the different events happening in Castle Rock. And I just went ahead and set up my Meetup app to Castle Rock, and it tells me the different things that are going on that week. So it's really simple. So it's like you can see what's happening a month out. And these Meetup groups, it's everything from hiking groups to moms who want to work out groups to...
I just opened one up and was just scrolling through. There's a Colorado ski and snowboard with almost 3,000 people in the group. Like, you can meet people like no big deal with that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, there's plenty of gamers groups.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, and if there's not a group like this, that'll be one of the ways that we really help people be attracted to the things that we're doing as a community, is using that app, because you can put anything on there. If you're like, we're going to start a card playing group, okay, then you put it on there, and then you meet up on Friday night, and you have some random people show up at your house. I mean, it's kind of how it rolls. That's right. That's right. So you can do that. You know, I would definitely encourage all of us to download that app. But an easy way to do stuff. Also, like apartment complexes, neighborhoods, stuff like that, usually have things going on about once a month. So, you know, you can always do stuff there as well. Go to parks, movies, grocery stores, malls, restaurants, concerts, and coffee houses. Again, these are things to learn the culture. As you see what type of, if you go on, I forgot one of these websites, and I looked at the different concerts that are coming into Denver, and it was like almost all indie stuff, and which just kind of shows you the culture of Denver. Download the Denver Post, which I said earlier, and you read the news. There's all kinds of good stuff there. Must See Denver. This is a great website that just tells you here are the things you need to go visit when you get out there. Yeah, you're just going to click on it right now. Use your finger. I will email this to you guys so you'll have this, okay? But I need a few of y'all's emails. If you did not get an email about tonight, then I need your email. Denver events calendar. I think this is what I went to, and it showed me the different concerts and stuff going on. So you can see all kinds of different things, like where people are going to smoke pot and stuff like that, because that's all over there. And then second to last, great one-day trips from Denver. So these are like the cool things that you can do in a day. So it's pretty legit stuff. I mean, there's some really cool stuff out there to do. There's a reason why it's got 4 of the top 10 fittest cities in the nation. I mean, it's like everything is outdoors, everything. There's a bike path that runs all through the city. I mean, it's just awesome. Like, there's so much to do. And then join an intramural sports team if you like doing that. There's all kinds. If you go to that website, it's crazy how many different sports they have there. Yeah.
Sports and leagues within the sports. They have every sport you could think of organized. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Curling.
Except for that. I think there might be a curling one actually.
There's no. Yes. Okay. Yeah. How can the teams best learn the culture? These are things that you guys can do as like community groups and like as groups together. These are Castle Rock specific. You can attend events through the Meetup app as a team, same thing. Coaching and officiating youth sports if you like doing that. And then special events, volunteers. You can go, again, I'll send you this document. You can click on that last link, and it'll take you straight to different events that are happening in Castle Rock that you can volunteer at. Which Steve Cloder is actually creating a document right now that has events that are happening over the next year in Castle Rock. And then we will decide which of those as a church we're going to be a part of and serve at. So we'll already do those as a community as well. So I want us when we get there, I think I said this last time, I want us when we get there, when we start the church, when the doors open for the first time, I want us to be able to say, this is a church of who we already are and what we've already been doing, not a church of what we want to do. I don't want to be a church of ideals. I want to be a church of, realism and what we actually do day to day. So our biggest thing is going to be this right here. It's going to be building community. And if we do this really well, people will be attracted to it. If you read Acts chapter 2, there was nothing special or unique about the community. Nothing. There's a group of people who just simply tried to seek after God and cared for one another. They were crazy generous with one another. They sold everything they had if somebody had a need. They did whatever they could to care for the group, to care for each other. And then the people from the outside of that group saw that, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So it wasn't like they were out there preaching the gospel every single second they had. They were just living in community with each other. They were showing true love. By the way we love one another, that's how the world will see Jesus' love. I mean, that's what Jesus prays in John, I think, 17. I mean, that's what he prays for. God, may your disciples love each other so that they will see my love. And so that's what we want to do ultimately. So this is going to be essential, this document right here. Couple things I'd love for you to do, just these are a couple action steps, and then we'll pray it up and do whatever we want to do from there. As a church, we'll have certain values that will really guide us and direct us. And so what I'd love to throw out 3 different books that I would really love for you to choose one of them to read and just get familiar with. Each one of these deals with a different value that I have and that consequently our church will have. So the first is Radical by Platt. How many of y'all have read Radical? I think a lot of us probably have. Okay, good. I would definitely, if you haven't read that, it's a must read. It's really good. Basic Christianity by Stott. Anybody read Basic Christianity yet? Okay. I would really encourage you to read that one. If Denver is as intellectual as they say it is, you'll want to know your stuff. S-T-O-T-T. It's like, that's one of the smallest books you could ever get. Like, it's really small, really, really small, very easy to read, but just really deals with the basics of Christianity. So it's like when they ask the really simple questions that they think may be difficult and challenging and whatnot, Stott puts it in a very simple form. It's like, here's Jesus. Here's how he's God and God's Son. I mean, it's really, really simple stuff. Really good book. It is one of the books that every Christian, in my opinion, should have to read. So Basic Christianity, and then Spiritual Leadership by Blackaby. Anybody read that one? Okay, a few of you. That's a really good one as well. Or Spiritual Leadership by Oswald. If you've already read the Blackaby one, Oswald's got one that's like 40 years earlier, but different and really good. So I'd love you to choose one of those 3, or with the addendum of the Oswald one. Radical, Basic Christianity, or Spiritual Leadership. Either one of those. And once you know, just tell me which ones. I'm going to be praying for you specifically with that book and that God will reveal exactly what he wants. Radical will get you kind of emotional and fired up and ready to go and not want to give the kids in the nursery goldfish and stuff like that. And Basic Christianity will really just help you get to the basics of what we actually believe. And then Spiritual Leadership is a must read for anybody who wants to have any type of leadership in the church, in my opinion. It's really, really solid. Just deals with character and deals with some leadership stuff that we all need. So each one of those hits a different value that we will have. The Radical one really hits the missional living that I want us to focus on as a church. The Basic Christianity really focuses on the biblical view. I want our worldview to be based on God's Word. And that means what we do and what we say is based on His Word and nothing else. And in our culture, that is so important. Somebody, I think I might have said this last time, somebody said, I think it was Driscoll, said that the church, in order to really reach people in the next 10, 15, 20 years, must become more conservative biblically, but more liberal in social stuff. But you can't be liberal in social stuff and maintain God's Word unless you know God's Word. So if you're liberal in social stuff and don't really know God's Word, then you're just liberal in social stuff and God's Word. And that doesn't do anybody any good. in the end. So basic Christianity focuses on that worldview that we want. And then spiritual leadership, one of our core values is going to be really developing and deployment of leaders. I really want to develop and deploy leaders to wherever God has for them. So those three. Would love to encourage all of us. I'm going to start fasting every Monday for the church and for this community and for what God wants to do in Denver. So if you want to fast along with me, fasting is just simply a way to deny ourselves of something earthly to focus on the supernatural. So you give up something natural to focus on the supernatural. And the way I normally do a fast is from the time I wake up till like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., somewhere in that time frame. There's nothing special about that at all. I just, by like 11, I'm dying of hunger. And so I figure that's a lot of time to still keep praying. So you give up something natural that will trigger something on a continual basis throughout the day to challenge you to pray and to think through what God's wanting. So like if you don't care about smoothies, then don't fast smoothies. I know people who fasted social media and they never get on social media anyways. So it's like, why are you fasting that? Like, so they'll never pray about whatever they're supposed to be praying about if they're not reminded. So I almost always fast food because that's like the main thing that I like and want to keep up with. So, and my stomach tells me when I want food. So fasting every Monday. Why Monday? Because it's the start of the week. So may God focus on that the very first part of the week. Prayer. I would encourage you, if you haven't looked at my blog from this past Thursday, go on there and look at it. It's just earnestsmith.net. And I outline every day of the week a different prayer focus for the church. And just would encourage you to take that up too. It would be awesome to have all of us and then a ton of other people praying for us. I had a lot of guys on Twitter and different people text me and just say, yo, I'm going to follow along with you guys on this, praying for you. And it'd be cool if we as a community did that as well. And so each day has a specific focus. Doesn't mean you can't pray for every day. I'm praying about house sales. But I think it's Wednesday that I'm supposed to be praying for transitions, which is house selling. So you can do whatever in those days. Just try to follow along if you want. And then I would ask that you pray for at least 2 other people on this team each day. They can be the same 2 people every day. If you want, they can be 2 different people every day. Just pray for 2 people that are sitting in this room, and I can give you a list of others as well. I'll email everybody. Everybody definitely pray for Neil.